ಬಾರದೆ ನರಜನ್ಮ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾಲಿಗೆ ಇರುವಾಗ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನಡೆನೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಅವನಿಷ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನಡೆದ ಕಷ್ಟ ಅವನಿಷ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನಿನ ಬಾರದೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನಿನ ಬಾರದೆ ನರಜನ್ಮ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾಲಿಗೆ ಇರುವಾಗ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಕಂದನ ಬಿಗಿದಪ್ಪೆ ಮುದ್ದಾಡುತ್ತಲವ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಕಂದನ ಬಿಗಿದಪ್ಪೆ ಮುದ್ದಾಡುತ್ತಲವ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಚಂದುಳ್ಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕುಳಿತುಂಬೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಚಂದುಳ್ಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕುಳಿತುಂಬೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ನರಜನ್ಮ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾಲಿಗೆ ಇರುವಾಗ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ದುರಿತ ರಾಶಿಗಳನ್ನು ತಲೆದು ಬಿಸಿಡಲು ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ದುರಿತ ರಾಶಿಗಳನ್ನು ತಲೆದು ಬಿಸಿಡಲು ಕೃಷ್ಣಾಯನ ಬಾರದೆ ಗರುಡವಾನಿಸಿ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಗರುಡವಾನಿಸಿ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ನರಜನ್ಮ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾಲಿಗೆ ಇರುವಾಗ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರದೆ ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hari Bol. Thank you so much for such a wonderful kid.
Thank you.
Then, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Ekamba Prabhuji, would you like to read the translation, Prabhuji?
You want to read translation and should we start our class? Okay,
Translation, yeah, we can do and then we can start.
I'll do the translation, Mataji. Each line is having Krishna and Abharde, which means, why don't you chant Krishna when you are born as human being and is able to speak? Why don't you chant Krishna? If you chant Krishna, all your agonies will be solved. Why don't you chant Krishna? When you get up from the bed after sleeping, when you are walking within the house, while taking bath, drinking water, chanting sacred words, japa tapa, why don't you chant Hare Krishna? When you are satisfied with sumptuous food, feast food, while sitting on a cushion bed, when you are when you are hugging a child, when you are intimately conversing with your spouse, while speaking too much, while walking, while carrying heavy loads, why don't you sing? Why don't you chant Krishna? With so much work schedules, make calling Krishna also one schedule. When Krishna is helping you remove all the sins and guilt, Krishna who travels on Garuda, our Purandara Vitala, why don't you chant Krishna? Having attained a human life, while you have a voice, tongue, why don't you chant Krishna? Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranams Prabhuji. So nice. Such a beautiful song. Thank you. Thank you so much, Avyuk Prabhuji. And thank you so much, Ekambal Prabhuji, for bringing in your grandson. Such a beautiful, bhajan it was. Very nice. Haribol. All right. So today, who would like to sing Mangalacharan? Muthumanikam Prabhuji, you wanted to sing, right?
Yes, Hare Krishna Mother.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Anjanatimirandasya Jnana Salakaya. चक्षुर्उन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति शुभपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवां च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सकगणरघुनाथान्वितां तं सजैवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सकगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणी नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरद्वेषे नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कृष्ण नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधा वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभय एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Haribol. Dhanvat pranams Prabhuji. Thank you so much for singing so very beautifully. Hare Krishna Lakshmi Mataji. Thank you for joining. All
Hare
right.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. All right, let's begin our class then. So let's do a quick recap of yesterday's class and then we will begin. Anyone remembers what we read yesterday? What did we cover?
Mataji, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada planned to travel extensively to many countries like America,
Yes.
London, and Malaysia. And Malaysia and Australia sending devotees initially. And during Australian visit, initially confirmed and then two telegrams, it was postponed, and the fourth telegram he confirmed with a partial manner. And the problem in the Australian ISKCON was that Mr. Upendra and Mr. Balidena, what is name? Two people,
Mardana.
Bali Mardena. Bali Mardena started ISKCON temple in the Sydney and not concentrated with the Uddhava devotee. And all the times the untrained devotee started reading Bhagavad Gita and some other ritual activities that they are done in the ISKCON temple at Sydney.
Actually unprepared, right?
Unprepared.
Yeah.
And during a visit Srila Prabhupada at the airport, the reporter asked some questions, and this is Australia, like this, only it will happen like that. But Prabhupada's view, he told to reporter, I have seen all the lands in the form of Krishna land only, like that he replied.
Yeah.
That way.
But
And
there is the land of Krishna, right? So the demarcation of this Australia and all is only for governments, but for we see everything as the land of Krishna. So that's what it
and Vaibhav Devi
is. Very good.
Devidasi.
So
Vaibhav
when
Devi
Srila Prabhupada the land, so when Srila Prabhupada dropped that fourth telegram saying he was arrived, what did the devotees expect? They didn't know, right? That Srila Prabhupada is going to come. So what happened at the airport?
Hare Krishna Mata.
Anyone remembers?
At the airport,
Very
devotees, Hare Krishna, devotee thought they only Balimardan Prabhuji is coming. They never thought ke Prabhupada. When they come, at the airport, when they show the Prabhupada, they bring only one small garland, and
Yeah.
there was no much preparation for the Prabhupada. So
Yeah.
Prabhupada, all the devotees were neophyte. They do not know how to do things properly, and they didn't get much training for mandir and deities seva.
Yeah. Very well. Very nice, Pushpa Mataji. Thank you for sharing.
and some notes from the Vaibhav Devidasi notes.
Yeah.
What happened in Australia, Sydney temple, we are written. And Radha Krishna temple installed, the deities installed there
Deities got installed.
with
Yeah.
incomplete manner. And the same day, first and second initiation given by the Prabhupada to the devotees. And one small student that was 1 week before joined ISKCON, he also was initiated. Prabhupada told that way, this way the Australian ISKCON will function, and this way we have to make a rise of ISKCON in Australia there, like that. And in front of Radharani deities, Prabhupada told, I am giving, I am handovering you both to Melachas, but you should only give some intelligence, with the good intelligence to them,
Yeah.
and we have to make rising of ISKCON at Australia.
Very good. So beautiful. Right? He says, now I'm leaving you in the hands of Mlechas. I cannot take the responsibilities. You please guide these boys and girls and give them the intelligence to worship you very nicely. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. Very beautiful. Thank you so much, Matmanikam Prabhuji, for summarizing it so beautifully. All right. So then what happened in Moscow?
Moscow, Srila Prabhupada went in June 1971,
Yeah.
and with Aravinda and Shyam Sundara, and they have stayed at Hotel National, and the fare was very high, and near Lenin tomb. That was fare was very high, and initially hotel manager recruited to allow food, making food at hotel, and after that he convinced with Aravinda, and initially Aravinda and Sam Sundara stayed away from Srila Prabhupada's staying place, and after that Prabhupada took Aravinda staying with him, and whatever the cooking items told to Shyam Sundara, and initially Shyam Sundara went and purchased some milk by using coupons, and this will take a long queue. And then asked Prabhupada about rice, and rice he went on the after 7 hours only he brought rice, and that was
Yeah.
North Korean variety which was very hard.
Yeah.
And then after some time they purchased some red cherries
Mm.
to them.
Very nice. Haribol. So beautifully you've read and summarized Muthumanik Prabhuji. Very nice. Okay. And what did we, anything else anyone would like to add? Anything else? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
Prabhupada has given an analogy. Although in material life, a man must first become highly qualified lawyer before sitting on the judge's bench. In Krishna consciousness, a sincere devotee is first allowed to sit on the bench to become a Brahmana, and later by the mercy of the holy name and the spiritual master, he becomes qualified.
Very nice. Thank
And
you. Thank you so much.
Srila Prabhupada commanded the Russian people visiting the Lenin stone, and some command Srila Prabhupada giving. And these people don't know the difference between the soul and body, so that they are
Body and the spirit. Yeah.
spirit,
Yeah.
and like that commanded.
Yeah. Body. Very beautiful. He says these people don't understand the difference between the body and the spirit. They accept the body as the real person. Right? That's the comment he made. Haribol. So that is where we concluded yesterday's class. So we will continue from there. I'll share my screen. Whoever is interested to read, please raise your hands so that I can allow you in the same order. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, is my screen visible? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, very nice. So, Muthumanikam Prabhuji, I see your hand raised. You can start, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Prabhupada appreciated the sparseness of the traffic, some trolleys and bicycles, but mostly pedestrians as he walked among the old ornate buildings. He saw elderly women hosing the wide streets. Yeah, good practice, he said. The Russian people appeared to live structured, regulated lives, much more so than the Americans. The simple austere people, unspoiled by the rampant hedonisms so common in America, were fertile for Krishna consciousness. But devoid of spiritual sustenance, they appeared morose. For months, Prabhupada had been planning to visit Moscow. Aside from his desire to preach to the Russian people, he had a specific meeting in mind with the Russian Indology professor G.G. Kotovsky. Professor Kotovsky headed the Department of Indian and South Asian Studies at Moscow USSR Academy of Sciences, and Prabhupada had been corresponding with him for a year. Prabhupada had Shyam Sundara arrange a meeting with Professor Kotovsky. The tourist bureau provided a car and guide, and Prabhupada and his party rode outside the city to Professor Kotovsky's office in an old white brick building at the Academy of Sciences. When Prabhupada arrived, the suit got up from his glittered desk and welcomed Prabhupada into his small office. Professor Kotovsky appeared a bit hesitant, however, more Cassius than Prabhupada's eagerness to lecture before an interested scholars at the academy, Professor Potowski flatly refused it. It would never be allowed. Prabhupada was disappointed. The next moment, however, Prabhupada seemed unaffected and began speaking in his humble, gentle manner, sitting in a straight back of his clear chair beside Professor Potanda and the tape recorder, which the professor eyed cautiously but didn't object to. Prabhupada, the other day I was reading in the newspaper, Moscow News, there was a communist congress, and the president declared that we are ready to get others' experiences to improve. So I think a very concept of socialism or communism will much improve the idea of communism. Professor Potowski listened intently and politely as his foreign visitor explained how the Grahastha in Vedic culture provided for everyone living in his house, even for the lizards, and how before taking his meal he calls in the road to invite any angry person to come and eat. In this way, Prabhupada explained, there are so many good concepts about the socialist idea of communication. So I thought these ideas might have been distributed in some of your thoughtful men. Therefore, I was anxious to speak. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Danvat pranams. Thank you so much. Ekambar Prabhuji, would you like to read next? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Professor Potowski responded with several questions which Prabhupada welcomed, although they were grounded in Soviet socialist vested interest. He considered the professor not so much an academician as a pawn of the Soviet university system. Much as one political power tries to understand its adversaries, the professor was inquiring into Indian culture so that his government might penetrate it with their own ideology. Behind Professor Kotovsky's apparent interest in Vedic culture, Prabhupada could see the view of the Communist Party, a view diametrically opposed to Vedic philosophy. Nevertheless, Prabhupada factually continued to present Krishna consciousness in accordance with Parampara, and he tried to convince Professor Kotovsky through scripture and logic, modern society's missing point. Prabhupada said, was an understanding of the purpose of human life. They do not know what is the next life, he said. There is no department of knowledge or scientific department to study what, what is there after finishing the body. Professor Kotovsky objected politely, completely. Swamiji, he said, when the body dies, the owner also dies. Prabhupada marked his reply. The learned professor, head of the Department of Indian Studies in the Soviet Academy, was caught in a classic moment of ignorance. His concept of who he was no more advanced than an animal. After only 3 days, Prabhupada's mission in Moscow seemed finished. The meeting with Professor Kotovsky over what was left. The government would allow nothing else. It had not allowed him to bring in books, and now he had been refused the opportunity to speak publicly. Foreigners were not to talk with the Russians. He could go nowhere unless on an accompanied tour. So, with no preaching and no prospects, he stayed in his cramped room, taking his massage, bathing, accepting whatever food Shamsundara could gather and cook, dictating a few letters, chanting Hare Krishna and translating Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Danvat pranams. Thank you so much. Pushpa Mataji, would you like to read next, Mataji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada took a guide tour to Moscow, riding with other tourists on a crowded bus. He saw elderly Russian going to churches, armed guards stationed at the door, and he surmised that the guards were to prevent the younger generation from entering to worship. He soon tired of the tour. However, the tour guide not got him a taxi and instructed the driver to return him to the Hotel National. Shyamsundara continued to spend most of his day looking for fresh food, hearing that oranges were available at a certain market across town. He set out across the city. Within his shaved head and his white dhoti and kurta, he drew stares from everyone he passed. And he was returning after dark. Un- Uniformed men wearing red armbands accosted him, taking him to a local deviant. Grabbing him, they pinned his arm behind his back and shouted at him in Russian. Shyam Sundar caught the word document identification. He replied, document, hotel. Realizing Shyam Sundar was a tourist, the officer releases him and he returned to the hotel and informed Prabhupada of what has taken place. There is no hope in Russia without Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna Mataji. Prabhupada said. Once Shyamsundar was standing in line at the yogurt store when a man behind him asked him about yoga. I really wanted to talk with you, the man said, and he gave Shyamsundar his name and address and a time they could safely meet. When Shyamsundar told Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, no, he is a policeman, don't go. Standing at his window, Prabhupada glimpsed a parade in nearby Red Square. Tanks, artillery, missiles, and troops parading through the street. By always preparing for war, he said, Russian leader kept the people motivated and thus avoided a revolt. He compared war like Russia to the Asuras, demons in the ancient Vedic history like Srimad Bhagavatam. One day, two young men, one the son of Indian diplomat stationed in Moscow, the other a young Moscowite, were loitering near Red Square when they saw an amazing sight. Out of the usual regimental routine of city traffic, a tall young man with a shaved head, a long reddish ponytail, flowing white robes approached. It was Shyamsundara. Familiar with Shyamsundara's dress, the son of the Indian diplomat stopped him. Shyamsundara smiled and said, Hare Krishna, brother. And he began talking with the Indian, whose name was Narayana. The Russian, Ivan, knew a little English and allowed it and followed the conversation as closely he could. The talk grew seriously. Mata, shall I continue?
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dhammat pranams.
Hare Krishna, Mata.
Krishna. Krishna Das Prabhuji, would you like to read Prabhuji? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
May I read?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Just a minute. We'll check once with Krishna Das Prabhuji. If not, you can continue. Hare Krishna, Krishna Das Prabhuji. I think you're on mute.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Would you like to read Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. From one day, Mataji. Yes.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
From where I have to.
From here, Prabhuji. Why don't you come up?
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Right.
Why don't you come up and meet my spiritual master? Shyamsundara asked. Honored, the boys immediately accompanied Shyamsundara to the Hotel National. When they arrived, they found Prabhupada seated on his bed, aglow and smiling. Arvinda massaging his feet. Shyamsundara entered, offering obeisances before Prabhupada. Ivan was completely fascinated. Come on, Prabhupada said, and the three of them sat on Prabhupada's feet. Turning first to Narayana, Prabhupada asked his name and his father's occupation. Narayana liked Prabhupada and offered to bring him green vegetables. His father, being highly placed at the Indian embassy, had produced has had produced flown in from India. Ivan was interested in even more than his Indian friend. and Prabhupada began explaining to him the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. While Narayana helped the translating, Ivan inquired with respect and awe, and Prabhupada answered his questions, teaching as much basic information about Krishna consciousness as was possible in one sitting. Prabhupada explained the difference between the spirit soul and the body and described the soul's eternal relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He spoke of Bhagavad Gita, of his network of temples around the world, and of his young men and women disciples all practicing Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada mentioned his desire to preach in Russia, which was a great field for Krishna consciousness because the people were open-minded and hadn't been polluted by sense gratification. He wanted to introduce Krishna consciousness literature in Russia through a library or a reading room or in whatever way possible. Krishna conscious philosophy, he said, should be taught to Russia's most intelligent people, but because of government restrictions, it would have to be done discreetly. Devotees would not be able to sing and dance in the streets, but they could chant quietly together in someone's home. Prabhupada then began singing very quietly, leading the boys in Kirtana. Ivan's taking to Krishna was like a hungry man's eating a meal. After several hours, however, he and his friends had to go. They would return the next day. Shyamchandra began spending time with Ivan and Narayana. Ivan, a student of Oriental philosophies, was very intelligent and eager to know what was going on in the outside world. He was fond of the Beatles, and Prabhupada told him of his association with George Harrison and John Lennon. Ivan and Shyamchandra had long talks about the ambitions and hopes of young people outside Russia. And Shyamchandra explained to him how Krishna consciousness was the basic principle of all spiritual paths. Shyamchandra also taught him basic principles of Bhakti Yoga, such as chanting the prescribed 16 rounds of japa daily, and gave him his own copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada showed Ivan how to prepare chapatis and rice and asked him to give up eating meat. Joyfully, Ivan accepted the chanting, the new way of eating everything. Ivan was being trained so that after Prabhupada left, Ivan could continue on his own. Ivan would be able to feel himself changing and advancing in spiritual life. And after practicing for some time, he could be initiated. Ivan said he would tell his friends about Krishna consciousness. With only 2 days left in Moscow, Prabhupada taught Ivan as much as he could. In this young Russian's eagerness and intelligence, Prabhupada found the real purpose of his visit to Russia. Prabhupada gave the analogy that when cooking rice, the cook need test only one grain to determine whether the whole pot of rice is done. Similarly, by talking with this one Russian youth, Prabhupada could tell that the Russian people were not satisfied in their so-called ideal land of Marxism. Just as Ivan was keenly receptive to Krishna consciousness, millions of other Russians would be also. Chanakya Pandita, the Vedic philosopher, says that one blooming flower can refresh a whole forest and that a fire in a single tree can burn the whole forest. From the Marxist point of view, Ivan was the fire that would spread Krishna consciousness to others, thus defeating the communist ideology. And from Prabhupada's point of view, he was the aromatic flower that would lend its fragrance to many others. Prabhupada's visit to Russia was no obscure interlude, but had become an occasion for planting the seed of Krishna consciousness in a destitute land.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dhanvat pranams.
Hare
Very nice.
Krishna.
So, Muttamanikam Prabhuji, would you like to
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna
read
Mataji.
next, Prabhuji?
Srila Prabhupada had brought the movement of
Krishna.
Lord Chaitanya. Yes, Mataji.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada had brought the movement of Lord Chaitanya to yet another country. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself had predicted that the Sankirtana movement would go to every town and village. Yet, for hundreds of years, the prediction had remained unfulfilled. Prabhupada, however, in the few years since his first trip to America in 1965, had again and again planted Lord Chaitanya's message in one unlikely place after another. And of all these places, this was perhaps the most unlikely. During a brief government supervised visit to Moscow, he had planted the seed of Krishna consciousness within the Soviet Union. He was like a needle, and everyone and everything connected with him was like the thread that would follow. Professor Kotowski has remarked that Prabhupada's stay in an old-fashioned hotel would not prove very interesting, but Prabhupada, unknown to Professor Kotowski, was transcendental to Moscow or any other place in the material world. He had come to this place, and Krishna had sent a sincere soul to him to receive the gift of Krishna consciousness. This had happened not by devious espionage against the Soviet government, but by the presence of Krishna's pure devotee. Hare Krishna Mataji, please scroll down. Mataji, please scroll down. Devious espionage against the Soviet government, but by the presence of Krishna, pure devotee, and his natural desire to satisfy Krishna by preaching. In response, Prabhupada's pure desire, Krishna had sent one boy, and from that one boy, that desire would spread to others. Nothing, not even an iron curtain, could stop Krishna consciousness. The soul's natural function was to serve Krishna, and Krishna's natural will was to satisfy the pure desire of his devotee. Nairobi, September 1971. Prabhupada wanted to preach to the Africans. In Kenya, Indians and Africans were completely segregated. But since Krishna consciousness person does not make distinction based on the body, Prabhupada said the Indians had a duty to share their spiritual culture with the Africans.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll read one more page and we'll conclude the class today. Who would like to read Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Mataji, from which?
This line, Mataji. Prabhupada's GBC representative.
Yes, Mataji. Prabhupada GVC representative in Africa was Brahmanand Swami. Carefully, he impressed on Brahmanand that first duty in the effort was to give Krishna consciousness to the Africans. Because of the bad experience in Turkey and Pakistan, Brahmanand had been reluctant to hold public kirtans in Nairobi. Besides, the Africans spoke mostly Swahili. They were culturally different and usually too poor to buy books. So Brahmanand didn't know how to preach to them effectively. Going to the Indians had been easy and natural. But Prabhupada wanted the African. It it is an African country. He said simply, they are proprietors. We should be preaching to them. As with everything else in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada demonstrated how to do this also. He got the use of Radha Krishna temple in a predominantly African downtown area. The temple had a hall with doors opening into the busy street. The Prabhupada instructed the devotee to hold kirtan in the hall, keeping the doors open. The devotees did as he asked, and in 5 minutes the hall began filling up with the people. It was sober area of town, and people who entered were illiterate and dirty, but they were curious and they happily joined in the kirtans, smiling, clapping, and dancing. Brahmanand Swami left the hall and went to the nearby house where Prabhupada was staying. The place is filled with people. Ramanand said, but it is not necessary for you to come. We can carry on and do the programs ourselves. No, Prabhupada said, I must go. Ramanand tried to discourage him. No, I must go, Prabhupada repeated. Are you going to take me? When Brahmanand arrived with Srila Prabhupada, the hall was even more crowded than it had been a few minutes before. Prabhupada, in his silken saffron robes, appeared effulgent as he entered the dingy, poor lit auditorium. As he walked, the crowd parted, leaving an aisle for him to pass among them, and they watched him curiously. On stage, Prabhupada led a kirtan and lectured. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hari Bol, Pushpa Mataji, thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. So we're almost just few pages away from completing. Maybe tomorrow we will complete our. Okay, tomorrow is Saturday, right? Tomorrow's we have weekly satsang. Okay, we just have 2 more pages left.
Sunday, Sunday.
I think we.
Mataji, should I read? Mataji, should I read? May I read? Although the Swahili speaking audience was unable to understand the Prabhupada's lecture, the people were respectable and the Kirtana they loved. Members of the Indian community had been apprehensive of Prabhupada's opening their hall to the Africans, and some of them had attempted to see what would happen. Observing Prabhupada's compassionate program, however, the Indians were embraced. Such an apparently simple program had the spiritual potential to erase cultural boundaries. Mataji, please scroll down. Mataji, screen not visible.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I think I had network issue. I got disconnected. I just joined back. Let me share my screen again. Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You can continue, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. This should be the Brahmananda's mission too in Africa, Prabhupada insisted, offering Krishna consciousness to the Africans. And the program should be simple, distributing prasadam, distributing free books, and chanting Hare Krishna with the drums and the kartals. Krishna consciousness should not be just another Nairobi Hindu religious society. The Hindus should take part by donating money, but Brahmananda Swami's preaching and recruiting should be among the Africans. When several black American disciples joined Prabhupada's Nairobi, Prabhupada told them, 400 years ago your ancestors were taken away from here as slaves, but just see how you have returned as masters. Prabhupada also organized Nairobi's first outdoor Kirtana performance. The devotees went to Kamakunchi Park, largest tree, a historical landmark connected with Kenyan independence. As they stood chanting beneath the tree, a large crowd gathered and many began chanting. Some even danced in a sort of tribal shuffle. One young man stepped forward and offered to translate Brahmananda's speech to Swahili. The devotees distributed sweet bunting and the people in the crowd really enjoyed themselves. The whole affair was a great success. Rushing back to the Prabhupadas, Brahmananda reported on the wonderful Kirtana in the park. Brahmananda felt the same emotion as in 1966, where he had reported to Prabhupada the success of the first Kirtana at Washington Square Park in New York City. Now, as then, result had been successful. Prabhupada, by his personal example and by his pushing, Brahmananda Swami had within a few days changed the emphasis of preaching in Africa from Indians to Africans. Hare
Hare
Krishna, Mother.
Krishna, thank you so much. Okay, we just have one more page. Probably I'll read this and we'll finish it off. The night of Srila Prabhupada's lecture at the University of Nairobi, 2,000 African students filled the auditorium, with hundreds more standing outside to look in through doors and windows. First, Prabhupada had Bhuta Bhavana, a black American disciple, deliver a short introduction using some borrowed Swahili phrases. Harambe, he began, which means welcome, brothers, let us work together. Then Prabhupada spoke. The whole world is simply hankering and lamenting. You African people are now hankering to be like the Europeans and Americans. But the Europeans have lost their empire. They are now lamenting. So one party is hankering and one party is lamenting. We've come to these African countries to invite all intelligent Africans to come and understand this philosophy and distribute it. You are trying to develop yourselves, so develop very soundly. But don't imitate the Americans and Europeans who are living like cats and dogs. Such civilization will not stand. The atom bomb is already there. As soon as the next war breaks out, all the skyscraper buildings and everything else will be finished. Try to understand from the real standpoint, the real view of human life. That is the Krishna conscious movement. We request you to come and try to understand this philosophy. Thank you very much. The audience burst into applause, giving Prabhupada a standing ovation. This response proved once again that Krishna's message spoke to the heart. It was for all people, regardless of their political, geographic, or social predicament. When Prabhupada had first landed at the Nairobi airport, he had assured a reporter that he would be preaching to the Africans. And now he was. He was delivering to the Africans the same message and the same process of devotional service he delivered to the Americans. What the Americans wanted and what the Africans wanted could be realized only in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness would work anywhere if sincere and intelligent persons would only come forward and help distribute it. Prabhupada's preaching in Nairobi had been especially active. He had established Krishna consciousness in a new city, setting the example for Brahmananda Swami to emulate, showing the standard for spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the continent. And Shyamasundara was keeping his GBC God brothers informed of Prabhupada's amazing activities. The pace has been lightning fast, and His divine grace is opening up yet another vast theatre of operations. The people are thronging with curiosity and serious questions. Prabhupada, after finishing one late night preaching marathon, asked for food and remarked, "You see, I am hungry. Keep me talking. That is my life. Don't let me stop talking." Hare Krishna. Hari Bol to all of you. So, with this, we've completed
Hare
our
Krishna.
chapter 4. Hare Krishna. Dhanvat pronouns to all of you. Definitely by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and Krishna's grace only, we were able to complete 4 wonderful chapters about Srila Prabhupada's journey of how ISKCON expanded across the globe, right? It's so beautiful to read together.
We
So, in the
are,
next class, we will begin our chapter 5.
we are halfway through the book.
Yes, Prabhuji?
We are halfway through the book. Totally, there are 8 chapters.
Yeah, we are halfway through the book. Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yes, so we reached that half a marathon sprint. Very nice. So
Wonderful.
wonderful. Yeah, Haribol to all of you. I think only with all your support this was possible, and definitely Krishna's mercy. So we will start with the 5th chapter on Sunday. Tomorrow, as usual, we have our weekly satsang. So we'll join that by Aishwarya Mataji. Friday, Sunday, we will same time 9:15. We will start a chapter 5. Thank you so much for all of you for staying back late and helping to complete the class. So please revise and come. The next class we'll do a quick recap of all. Today we read quite a lot of pages, so we'll do a quick recap and then we'll start a chapter 5. Nanmat pranams to all of you. पाञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय जय श्रील प्रपात की जय हरे कृष्णा thank you so much
Hare
everyone
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Dandavat pranams to all of you thank you so much